All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. We got Parker here, of course. We're going to do another book chat. And we got Dusty, a.k.a. the Woke Centrist, a.k.a. Dusty, a.k.a. Dustin Cubit. Sometimes I forget your real name because I call you Dusty all the time. And also Quizat, a.k.a. Quizat Centrist. He has basically a different alias with each episode we do. So we're trying to avoid the CIA, right? So
That's right.
yeah, we're going to talk about Dune Messiah, which is the second book in the original series, the epic classic fantasy sci-fi fantasy series by Frank Herbert. And yeah, we were talking a little bit before about how both Dusty and I kind of thought this one was boring the first time we read it, but in our second reread, found it much more interesting. And there's so much going on with all the political scheming and all the various factions trying to take power of the intergalactic throne away from the God Emperor Paul, aka Maud Dib, aka Mighty Mouse, that he
Well,
got.
he's not the God Emperor yet.
Isn't he?
No. Alito becomes the God Emperor.
I thought he was like he has godlike powers and he's already the head of the empire.
Oh, yeah, he's the head, but he doesn't. Alito lives for like thousands of years. Paul still has like a mortal lifespan.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. And there's some really cool, interesting stuff that happens, and I like the fantasy sci-fi aspects of it, like how I put in the subtitle for this. There's stuff going on like Duncan Idaho comes back as a ghola, aka a clone made of biological material, and he's been sent by a dwarf to spy on and try to influence and eventually attempt to kill Paul. And there's of course the Bene Gesserit and others are doing this eugenics and they're doing the selective breeding, and one of the factions is trying to get Paul to breed with, I believe it's I think it's Princess Irulan of House Corrino.
Yeah, Erelon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Irulan, which is the house that controlled the Empire before Atriedes did, before Paul took it over, even though he's part of the Fremen now. And then his Fremen wife Chani wants him to have a wife or to have a child with him rather too. And like I said, all these different factions trying to work behind the scenes to manipulate him. And Parker and I were talking before we started about how, he has this power of prescience, but he, even though he has that, he cannot know definitively what is going to happen in the future. He just knows every possible outcome, but he doesn't know which one is going to occur. And we were talking too about how even if he can see every possible outcome, even the best possible outcome can be fucking ruthless, like the mass genocide of 60 billion people across the galaxy. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening there. So I know this was your first time reading it, Parker. So why don't we start off with what your thoughts are on the book in general?
Well, when you actually read the title, like you hear Messiah, it automatically makes you think of something biblical, and there's a lot of parallels drawn between what's going on as far as Paul becoming this like Jesus-like figure, and what's actually like seen within this book, and what it's supposed to be, I guess, bringing to mind. Because I mean, it really does have a lot to do with that. Like because it's biblical in the fact that I think that a lot of what the Bible or anything that's spiritually motivated goes with, it's like a lot about choices. And if we go back to that comment that we had about prescience, a lot of the prescience that Paul has is based off of the choices that are made. So he's like, one of the biggest things was he was kind of talking about how Stegar had continually kind of been like, well, you can see the future, man. Like, why don't you just tell us what's going to happen? And he's like, yo, like, it's not that simple. Like, there's all kinds of Like the future is never really 100% set in stone. People could make different choices. And that was always kind of like this theme in the back, because even the jihad that was happening and was, I guess it was happening as this was going on. I guess this was like that was simultaneously happening. I don't know if that was like.
No, I know it's
It was
like
never
12
really.
years since the last book, so
Yeah,
they kind of imply that it's been going on for
like
probably a while.
Like a new jihad basically started when Paul took over control of the throne of the empire, right?
Correct. So basically, and he didn't want that to happen at all. The whole point was when you have somebody that has a belief system, when that belief system is basically put out, then it almost becomes like a virus of the mind, and it becomes out of the hands of the people that are even executing or even the center of that belief system. So he kind of becomes more cautious even within his own existence, due to the fact that he knows that there are serious implications for whatever he does as a quote unquote messiah. And also his sister Aaliyah also becomes like, that's also something that I loved about this book series, is they had the masculine and the feminine, they have to like live together at all times. Because Jessica doesn't play. I mean, Jessica's around, like it's kind of implied, but she's not really like there. I think
She's a way less important character in this book than the first one, for sure.
Yeah, like Aaliyah basically takes over her role as being the feminine power within this book, and being like kind of a messiah within her, the other side of the messiah coin of what Paul is, because she kind of is everywhere at once within this emotional kind of like ethereal going through the times kind of way of having prescience, whereas Paul is more of a physical prescience and more of a masculine kind of way. So you have like the feminine, the feeling of like having multiple lifetimes and understanding on like this intrinsic kind of feeling level. And you also have the physical, like actually seeing and also being able to mold and actually molding the future that you see. And I mean, even towards the end of the book, with Paul losing his sight, he kind of is able to see better because he doesn't have physical sight anymore, due to the fact that he can like now he can make better sense of the different realities that are happening, because he's not really present even within the present reality. He's only present within the possibilities of what happens, and that's what's suggested, but it's not really kind of told definitively. I think that was there's so many layers to almost everything that's happening within this. And I mean, I get why you would think that this was boring, because it's not in your face action. Like, I mean, basically it's about a plot. It's more of a Game of Thrones. It's more of a like, what I would like to say that this book is like, is it's like Dragon Ball Z. I used to hate Dragon Ball Z when they had those episodes where they would just sit around and they talk like, yo, man, like this show is about whooping somebody's ass. Why are we sitting up there talking to Frieza for like a whole episode? I thought this motherfucker was supposed to blow up like 30 seconds. And y'all are sitting up here having like, like 30 minutes of dialogue. And, and I didn't get that, but they did that in this, but there was so much more that was necessary for the belief system that was behind everything, because there wasn't a lot of in your face action. There was just a lot of there was a lot of subversive plots, and then there were things that were kind of big that were happening around, but there was nothing like, there wasn't a big war, there wasn't a big battle, there weren't like, the worms were around, but you didn't like, I mean, you heard about a worm being taken, but you didn't actually see worms. There wasn't like anybody riding them a lot in this book. It was just a whole lot of like this, what does it mean to really like the word Messiah? What does it mean to be like the Jesus figure? What does it mean to see everything and not see everything? What does it mean to really need both a feminine and masculine version of this superpower? And what is the Bene Gesserit like in their eugenics kind of their eugenics program, and knowing that there are other eugenics programs that are simultaneously happening as well as that eugenics program. It all gives you this whole thing where it's kind of like we talked about with prescience. It's the context of which everything is. It makes you kind of go, well, what is good? Because everybody has their own form of it, because everybody has their own form of eugenics, right? So everybody has their own form of a messiah, right? So if there's different forms of the same version of a Messiah, a Kwisatz Haderach, as they call them, if you call that, if there's 1,000 different versions of that kind of existence and that kind of Messiah and that kind of belief system, then that means there's literally an infinite amount of beliefs and an infinite amount of quote unquote goods. And there's an infinite amount of goods, and that's all based on whoever is, it kind of goes into that philosophical saying, good is good as long as it's good for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. In terms of all the political screaming, like you said, how it's kind of like Game of Thrones, that's interesting too. Like Dusty and Tristram and I were talking about this yesterday in terms of the new Wheel of Time show, and how they're doing that in the newest episode and in general. And we were talking about how, and what you said about the Game of Thrones reminded me, because Dune preceded Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time, and all this political scheming stuff came from Dune before anywhere else. And like the Bene Gesserit, for example, are basically the Aes Sedai in the Wheel of Time universe now, and all that political scheming that happens in Game of Thrones, that was happening in the Dune universe like decades before it was even happening in the Game of Thrones book. So yeah, there's all this political intrigue, and yeah, the religious themes, of course, are always interesting too. That stuff with Paul getting blinded towards the end of the book, but he can still truly see because he's fully enlightened, and it's only when he's blind that he can truly see, because like you were saying, he's kind of inhabiting all the various possible outcomes and not truly present in one at any particular moment. And that's such a common religious theme. Like I talk about how that happens in the Matrix trilogy. In the final new movie, Neo gets blinded, but he can still see because he's enlightened and he sees the true fabric of the world. And that's obviously such a common religious theme for sure.
Yeah. Fun fact about Game of Thrones, it was first released in 1996, and Wheel of Time was first released in 1990.
Right.
And Robert Jordan published 7 books before the first Game of Thrones came out.
And George R.R. Martin said that he was friends with and heavily influenced by Robert Jordan.
Yeah, so the political scheming stuff was also going on in Game of Thrones at that time as well. So pretty sure he, in the Wheel of Time series, that he was influenced by some of that also. For sure. Yeah. So what are your thoughts in general about your reread of this, Dusty? Well, the entire, because like I said, I was pretty bored the first time I read it, because it's kind of absent of any cool action set pieces or anything like that. It's all basically they establish the book right off the bat as it's a conspiracy against Paul. It's like straight up, the prologue is just all the groups that are against Paul are meeting up to figure out how to undermine him.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting though is, like, Paul is such a gray character in this book that it's almost, are we rooting for him? Like, considering that he's mid-book, he's starting to compare himself to a Hitler.
Yeah.
And things like that. And talking about like old Earth history, and so it's interesting. It's almost who's the good guys, the ones that are killing Paul off, or Paul? It's, can we really trust Paul that he's doing the right thing?
Yeah. And he even questions that himself. And it's like what Parker was saying about the only good is what's good for me. And yeah, like he's engaging in mass genocide too. And even he is questioning, especially towards the end of the novel, whether he's doing the right thing. And it's why, like, huge spoiler for the very end of the novel, of course, but he goes off into the desert, which is part of the Fremen prophecy too, because it's, well, oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot to comment on, that Parker was talking about, which is one of the themes is the burden of rulership, especially like the more power you have, the more of a burden it can be, really. Like if you control multiple planets across an entire galaxy at least, then you're going to have to control what's happening in all of these different places, and you have so much more responsibility in that sense. So even a Messiah can doubt that he's doing the right thing to the point of abandoning the rule of the Empire.
Yeah. And then Duncan Idaho.
Yeah, Duncan Idaho he's the only character who shows up in all of the original 6 books by Frank Herbert.
That's such a weird character. Like the only reason he came back is because people said that they liked him from the first book.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I thought he played a pretty inconsequential role in the first book. But hey, like he got killed off pretty early. He didn't last long. He got killed off when Paul got exiled, when he left the palace. So
yeah,
that's at least midway through the book. And I was like, really? I always thought that like Gurney Halleck was a more likable character than Duncan Idaho, but that's just me.
That's an interesting. They play that up a little bit in the new Dune movie. I told you I like the new movie, but there's some obvious changes, and that's one of them too. They definitely kind of ramped up the role of Duncan Idaho a little bit, but they still had Gurney Halleck as a significant character in it.
Yeah, so Duncan Idaho's back. He's a clown. He's got metal eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And Aaliyah wants that Idaho dick, but she's like what? She's like a teenager. Did they say how old the reincarnation, like the physical features of the Idaho ghola is?
I don't remember, but he must be a fully. I guess I just assumed that he was a fully grown adult, whatever the age was that he was when he died. I don't know. Do you know anything about that, Parker?
I think he was just the same age. I mean, he's just a reincarnation of exactly the person he was when he was dead, right? I mean, like
I'm having trouble hearing you, Parker. Can you hear him, Dusty?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's like really, really low.
Oh, now I can hear you better. Okay. Yeah, you were just too far away from your mic.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So I was saying, I think it probably had a lot to do, or I think he was whatever age he was, like when he died, because I mean, he was basically reincarnated from the exact same tissue as the point he died from, and it was kind of implied that he was kind of like cybernetic. So he was kind of like timeless, but timeless within the age that he died. So
right.
I mean, that was just what I got from it. So I'd say he's probably like in his 30s. So, optimum dude sexiness age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally good for trolling around for teenage girls, right?
Exactly. As Matthew McConaughey said, they keep on getting older, but they stay the same age.
Yeah, exactly.
Good time for that.
Yeah.
Living the dream, guys.
Yeah.
But I also thought that like a big portion of what Duncan Idaho's purpose was to, it made me think of the 48 Laws of Power. And one of the points of the 48 Laws of Power is you one of the deepest points of vulnerability that you have is the thought of love, because from the very start, Paul is kind of like, yo, I know that this guy is dead, but I love this dude. Like he was somebody that I have this deep admiration for. And even though I know that he may be a trap for me, and even has expressed that he's kind of a trap for me, I still have some kind of beholden value to this flesh and this attachment to this person. And he's like, and there's this deep belief. It's kind of like, it almost makes you think of like those zombie movies where they have like, the dad that keeps the daughter in the basement, and like she's a zombie. Yeah. She's zombified.
Or vampires too. Like I'm rereading a book series. I'm watching a show called The Strain, which was co-created by Guillermo del Toro. And there's of course a lot of that common theme that happens in vampires and zombie movies, like when your loved one turns into a literal monster who is trying to kill you. Can you kill them? Are you able to do that? That takes a kind of weird kind of strength.
And the whole thing about it is it's like the belief, the whole reason why Duncan Idaho is even left alive. Well, first off, he goes by hate. So, I mean, that would automatically make you go, that would make you go like, yo, man.
Is that a warning of some kind?
That's almost like, you know, if somebody called you, like if somebody was hitchhiking and it's like, my name is Murderer. And you're like, oh, I mean, that's an interesting name. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like murder. It's like, my name is like serial killer. Yeah, I just need to make it up the road. And like, and literally that's what his name was. But he was so attached to the flesh that he was like, yo, man, hey, that's a unique name, man. But I know you're Duncan underneath all of that. And I'm like, bruh.
Yeah.
All you had to do was just like not accept it. And then he was like, but I can't not accept it, because then it's like, you know, and that's also a big theme, because when you do rule over the universe and like the burden of being a leader, which if anybody's ever had any kind of leadership position, you know that it's like, if the group is big enough, no matter what you do, you could like sit up there and have a cure for cancer, right? And somebody would be like, you know, Jesus wanted cancer to exist, right? So there's always somebody that just doesn't like you. So having control of the whole galaxy, there's going to be some people that go like, oh my God, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then there's going to be people that are going to go like, he's the most tyrannical, most upsetting leader that's ever existed. And he needs to be taken off, just because like, it's like you said, just imagine like in the United States and Canada and just like any big nation that's like over a large landmass, because there's so many people, you literally can like, you can't make everybody happy. Like that's why it's hard being the president of any kind of nation, because there's going to be a certain portion of the populace that you piss off. As soon as you make like the populace like a galaxy, yo man, like just as soon as that dude sneezed, people would be pissed off at him. So like I'm sure that Paul was like just every day going like, yo man, I just wish people would just like fucking get off my back. And that had to be like a big point of it. And then he's like, and also he has like having two women, like being married to one, and then like having your like quote unquote on paper side chick be like your main chick, and like your on paper main chick be your side chick. That's got to be some crazy shit too, man. I imagine like every day it must have been like World War III in that dude's house, and he just like made it cool. And he was just, yo man, like all I thought about under that is I was like, if I was Paul, like, and I just like, and like with adult eyes thinking about that, just being in that situation, like, yo, every day would be like his house wasn't really like calm. Like think about that. Like his like on paper main chick, his wife, right? Like imagine being married to somebody and then it's like, yo man, she has like undercover fucking like she has undercover meetings with some fish motherfucker that like just knows shit. And then it's like, yo man, don't worry, like I know your dude can see everything, but he can't see me right now. And then like literally, like I remember at some point in time, like at the beginning of the book, she's like, yo man, like what would it be like to like fuck this fish dude? And like because she was like promised to
dude,
him,
it gets even weirder than that in I think it's book 3.
Well, like luckily we didn't even have to like really like understand any of that. But like the thing about it is I was like, what kind of pressure do you have to be under? Like, because think about it, like she at some point in time, like you find out that Irulan did like basically he was such a cool dude that like both Chani and Irulan wanted to like drop some mad pussy on this dude. And he's just a nice enough dude to just be like, yo, I'm a one pussy kind of dude, man. And that's like the only reason that shit didn't go down. Because even Chani was like, yo, man, like she's looking real dick desperate. I think you might need to drop some dick on her. You know? And then she was like, nah, man. He was like, nah, I'm a good dude, man. I only drop dick on you, baby, because I love you like that. And I was like, and we all know that if it was like if a woman came up to you, if your main chick came up to you and was like, yo, man, like for the fate of the galaxy, dog, you gotta fuck this chick, you'd be like,
okay.
Baby, are you sure? And she'll go like, "Yeah, I'll be real cool with that." And he'd be like, "It's for
Yeah.
the galaxy,
But
baby. What am I gonna do?"
But on
Yeah.
paper, main chick ends up being the death of side chick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because
Yeah, man. I mean, she is, but like,
Well,
I
she
know
like
that
those poisons that stops her from like
the
giving birth or
contraceptives.
like they totally messed up her body.
Yeah,
yeah,
I understand that. I understand that, but you know,
like
like
giving her
that's
secret
just
abortions before she's pregnant.
yeah. She took the Margaret Sanger approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And then
Oh
when she
man,
got off of them, her
that's
like
what. Sorry, go ahead.
then when she got off of those, like she discovered the poisons. She got on like some fertility drugs that
Right,
made
right.
like the baby like grow really fast, but it
And then she
sucks the life out of her.
and then at the end she has those twin children that were like born with prescience or something like that.
Yeah, they had
yeah.
like
Well,
the well, one of them newborns like talks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like one of them straight talks right out of the womb. So
yeah.
that'd be pretty interesting to see on film.
That stuff with
It's
that
like
stuff
boss
with
baby stuff right there.
yeah. That stuff with
man,
Duncan Idaho is so interesting too, because even Paul, like with the power of prescience, and even though he knows he shouldn't trust him, he's still, like you were saying, he has this attachment to Duncan Idaho, so he trusts him even though he knows that he shouldn't. And Duncan Idaho is on this secret mission to kill him, but he ends up like his attachment to Paul, even though he's the clone version of himself, he has the memories of the original Duncan Idaho, to the point that he remembers such this strong attachment to Paul that he overrides his orders to kill him, basically, and they like work together to stop him from engaging in his secret plot to kill Paul, which is really interesting.
Yeah, to me, Duncan Idaho talks a lot like Howard Rourke from The Fountainhead. He just
Oh yeah,
he speaks like in very short. Most of his dialogue are replies to questions,
yeah.
which is similar to like what Howard Rourke is like. He's just replying to other people in very short, concise sentences. It's like the same type of dialogue structure. It's really weird.
I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
Yeah, because Howard Rourke is just, I don't know, he just talks like an Asperger's person.
Yeah,
You
that makes sense because he's an
know?
Iran character, right?
Yeah, so, I kind of have the same feel for Duncan since he's like a mentat. So his words are very to the point and succinct. He doesn't
Mhm.
really elaborate much on anything.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I feel like. It's like they're very similar in the way that they talk. Not ideology, but just the
Definitely
way
not
that,
ideology.
just like the way that their dialogue plays out.
Yeah, for sure.
so when Neuralink comes up and Elon starts putting chips inside people, when do you think the first real Mentat's going to come out?
Ooh,
Mentats. Well, there would be a Butlerian jihad because we can't have computers in our brains.
No, well,
that's
honestly, like, well, think about it. Like, that's like the next level because that'd be like an iPad Plus. It's like, yo, I got this dude. It's like he's like a Palm Pilot, but he's like a dude.
It's probably you're just skipping steps from using Google. Instead of like using Google to look something up, you have it instantly.
Like I
Just think
imagine,
about it, and then you know.
I imagine it's just gonna be like midgets, man. Like it's hard enough to get a like job as a midget. They just put like an implant in your head, and then like they'll be like, "Yo, Alexa," and it'll be like, "Oh." You just kind
You
of
already know. You
it's
don't
like,
have to
"Yo,
ask
Alexa,"
Alexa
like,
anymore.
what's up?
You won't have to ask Alexa anymore.
Well, you just like it'll be like he'll be like your Alexa dwarf or something, and then like, he'll just be like, "Yo,
Oh yeah,
Alexa, like vacuum the floor, bro," and then it'll be like, "Oh,
yeah.
yo, I got the
Alexa, go
chip
get me a
implanted."
coffee.
It's like it's so easy. Like sometimes it like just fluffs my pillow. It just gets kind of creepy at night when it's just sitting there staring and going like, "Yo, I'm
Yeah.
just waiting."
Sometimes I get lonely and horny at night, and Alexa's just right there, and I figure maybe I should experiment.
You get like the chick version of yo, man. That would get weird. Like honestly, I could imagine that, man. Like that's like one thing about biomedical technology, like that even like bothers me about that because they've got like they don't talk about it in Doom, but they have like some like mentat concubines or something like that. This is like a chick that
Yeah.
just sitting up there. She's like full woman and everything, looks however you want her to, and then she just does whatever you want because of like the biomedical like surgeries and stuff. And then that would just like make that would just make marriage obsolete, man. Because why would you want to deal with the regular chick where you'd have to like be diplomatic?
Yeah. Especially who is it? Is it I forget what group it is. Is it the face dancers or something who are like women who are experts in sex and have like magic sex powers?
That's in later books.
Yeah, I know that's in later books.
Honored Matres.
Yeah, the Honored Matres. Yeah, they have like magic sex powers.
Oh man, that sounds.
Yeah, book 5 and 6. That's when they come out.
Yeah. I just be going to see the Honored Matres all the time too.
Like, what do they mean by magical sex powers? Like, I mean, like, sex is magical in itself. Like, what do they do? Like, they like twist
like mind controlling sex powers. I don't know how to. It's like
hard to explain. It's like they can. It's like they can.
Regular sex. That's what regular sex is. It's mind control sex power. Have you ever seen what dudes do for regular sex?
Yeah.
That's man, wars were started over that shit.
Or if a woman asks a guy for something right after they had sex. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll go on that $6,000 vacation in the Bahamas next month.
Yeah, that seems
real that sounds great. Yeah.
that's from dudes that haven't been out there in the field and like they realize that like you don't have to do all that, fellas.
Yeah,
they got to just go to the junior college and then just hang out for a little while, man. It'll be all right.
or just like go on Tinder.
No, man, Tinder's dangerous, man. Especially if you do that international. Now people are getting robbed on Tinder. It's rough out there.
Yeah, you can't trust people who you can't trust women who are asking you to pay for it. And a lot of them are pretending to be prostitutes, but they're fake accounts.
Yeah, man. Like in all honesty, man, and watch out for the ones that have like rainbow hair. The rainbow hair ones are not. They're for the streets, man. Don't waste your time with that. And also, if they have too many, like if they have tattoos and like the bull ring, man, don't. Well, I mean, like if they got tattoos and like you're just in for a good time and not a long time, that's cool. But like if they got like the nose ring, man, you're about to hear a lot of shit you don't really feel like fucking hearing. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
Well, you think like the nose ring is a woke thing?
It's not that it's woke. Like it might be woke, but like in all honesty, like every time I've experienced like ones that like have like the bull ring like right in the middle.
Right in the middle,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, when they've got that, man, like there's something up, man. Like I don't know what like they usually some polyamory kind of thing, or like they're just way too like butch, or they'll be like, yo man, like I do carpentry and like fucking weld and shit, and then they like
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that polyamorous stuff. I've almost
that's the most fucking Canadian thing you've ever said.
I've almost a few times been like the okay, we're a couple and we're looking and hey, I'm looking for a guy to fuck my wife on the side. I'm like, okay, but that sounds okay. I'll do that.
Oh my God, you're a dirty son of a bitch, No, don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. Like, yo, man, trust me. Like, I've gotten that offer too. It's not worth it. It's not worth your dignity. Like, first off, like, this is what's weird about it. Have you ever like banged somebody and then there's just somebody just there? That's upsetting, man. Like, just a dude. Just like imagine a dude just like looking at you like, yeah. He's like, yeah. You're giving it to my wife right now. I like that. Yeah, I really like that. You gonna come over next week? Yeah. Just no, don't look at me. Act like I'm not even here. Act like I'm not even like you feel his breath on your neck. Just
Yo.
Yeah, and then they're gonna ask you to do stuff you don't want to do. And it's gonna get awkward really quick.
I could so see that happening. In Dune with like what would happen with Duncan Idaho and that chick, or that could happen with Paul and his two chicks, or maybe they could have like him and Duncan Idaho could have like.
He just has a straight up worst name in the series, and he's the main character. It's just unfortunate.
Paul?
Who?
Duncan Idaho.
Oh,
I mean, how his name is changed to hate, or just Duncan Idaho?
Duncan Idaho is that's a dumb name.
It is, yeah.
Like, yes, this is Jake Montana.
Yo, man, that's like, you got to think about the time. Like, that was like a very 60s kind of thing to do. Like, and that was just like, back then, the whiter your name was, the better and more power it held. So they were like, Duncan Idaho. That's right. That's the best name I can come up with.
It's like a combination of preppy and hick. Like Duncan sounds like a preppy name, and Idaho sounds like a hick name. So it'd be like, like Cameron, Montana, or Pate, or I don't know, like
Taylor, Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's Taylor, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's a good one.
Like
Chad, Colorado.
Yeah,
correct. Like, you could be like Brandon, Colorado. It's like John Denver. Like, yo, man, like just the lamest of the lame. Like, but you gotta understand the time. Like, that was like, people were real proud of being American. Like, we're sitting up here in 2021, where like people are having a real hard time being American, or even like being even part of Western society now. So, like, we think how whack his name is, but at the time that was probably like the dopest shit ever, because everybody else was like, yo, man, everybody else has these like names like John Smith that are just like whack as fuck, but we're just naming them extra fucking American.
Yeah.
Look at this.
And
anybody
like,
be happy about that?
And it's a fantasy book in some ways, right? Like it's a sci-fi fantasy book. So often in fantasy there are these weird, unusual names. But it's not like unusual in that type of way. It's just like a weird sounding name.
I don't know, I just don't like the last name.
Or something somebody
Idaho?
thinks is just like cool. I mean, like, that's just, if I was gonna make a sci-fi book, I just like put in anything that I thought was just like fucking dope. I'd just be like, yo, man, like, I'd be like Long Dong Silver or something like that. And they'd be like, yo, why is that in there? And it's like, yo, man, I just thought it was dope. Like, that's the name of the fucking like main character. It's like, what is this, like a porn or something? It's like, it could be. Like, I like all of my sci-fi books to like maybe like form into it at any point in time to a porno.
Well, so far the best named character in Dune is the shout out Mapes. Like, how can you get more beast than that?
Yeah.
Or shout out Mapes. But shout out Mapes is just a housekeeper in the first book.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
Housekeeper, shout out Mapes, ruler, god emperor of Intergalactic Empire. That sounds better than Maud Dib, the might, or even the literal translation, Mighty Mouse, Strong Mouse. Strong Mouse.
I thought it was Desert Mouse.
Is it Desert Mouse?
Yeah, it was like Desert Mouse. It was like, it's the Desert Mouse. As a matter of fact, they even like alluded to that in the Dune movie. Where like, remember they always had like that little like mouse that was like just like going around in the desert, and I was like, yeah, that's funny. Maud Dib.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's a good point. And that I noticed they said that once in the movie, that someone called offhandedly mentioned the prophecy of Maud Dib.
Well, yeah, they like alluded to it because I watched it on HBO Max, which means that like I got like blasted wicked ridiculous like high, and then I just like watched it and fell asleep like 3 or 4 times, and then I actually watched it.
Right.
So I started noticing a lot of like subtleties that I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't watched it that way before. And I was like, oh, that's why they had that like that little mouse and everything. That was that Muad'Dib shit. But I
Right.
thought they did a really good job with like the ornithopters, and like they actually like the ornithopters turned out to be better than I even thought like they were in my mind, because
Yeah,
they made them out to be like dragonflies, and it was pretty cool.
yeah. I thought that was cool the way they made them work and they made them look. And I like how they ramped up the action a little bit too, and they kind of made more explicit some of the themes that are more subtle in the books. And obviously Duncan Idaho was fucking awesome in the movie too. Having Jason Momoa play badass Duncan Idaho was a good decision.
Did you like the newer movie better than the 80s one?
Definitely, I like it way better than the 80s one is so goddamn cheesy, man. I can't handle it.
But why in the new one does Paul look so beta? He just looks beta to me. Is
He
that
does, yeah, he definitely does in comparison to the other actors who played him in other versions. That's a good question. I guess maybe they did more. They clearly did like made more of an effort to make Paul and Chani like obviously teenagers in this adaptation, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of obvious.
Oh, what was that?
What's that?
What?
You got a voice alterating thing? That's pretty cool.
Oh, what? Hold on.
Yeah. my bad.
Hey,
Yeah. They
was that Bernhard Conan?
Yeah, Bernard Conan.
Oh yeah. They,
Who had a better Harkonnen, the old movie or the new one?
I think everything's better about, well, almost everything is better about the new movie. Like the still suits look better too. They don't look like everything looks cheesy in that 80s movie.
Well, it didn't look cheesy in the 80s when they came out.
Well, I never watched it in the 80s, so maybe I would have a different opinion if I did.
Yeah. I watched it in the 80s.
I think, and I don't know if they were like supposed to look beta or not, but like they definitely wanted to make the newer one more relatable to like kids. So I don't know if Paul was necessarily beta. I think they tried to like make him more like a Harry Potter-esque type of relatable figure for now. Because I mean,
Makes sense.
you have to kind of think about it. Like we had Harry Potter for, if you're a millennial, you basically like if you're anywhere from like the ages of like 25 to like in your like 30s now, like 35 or 40 even maybe. Like Harry Potter was kind of like your coming of age story or whatever. They haven't had one of those in a while. And then Dune could possibly be that, and they made it kind of more of a coming of age. They've got somebody that's like, I think they clearly made him look like he was 15. And I mean, I know that like Zendaya, the woman that played Chani, she's like in her 20s. So if they wanted to give her the makeup to make her look like she was in her 20s, they could have, but they purposely made her look like she was a little girl to like give them both like this youthful look. So I think it was more to be kind of a relatable hero story for whatever generation we have now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously the especially the first Dune book is the prototypical or the typical rather hero's journey, and he's that typical type of protagonist. Yeah, that makes sense if they're going to do that today. Yeah, I agree. We were talking about this yesterday. I think how I grew up with the Harry Potter books, and I think you're like the same age as me, so I think you did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that now what we're dealing with is a lot of people giving pushback, because I think that was immediately kind of seen, because there was actually a call to cancel a couple of to actually cancel the actor that did the Dune like main character of Paul Atreides, mainly due to the fact that because it was clear that he was going to be like a Messiah figure, and they're like, why would you want a straight white male to be the Messiah? And I was like, And I was like, yo, man, like, I don't understand why that means so much to people. But I'm like, because it's a story and like anybody can be like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, fine then.
This story is like really, really traditional, old-fashioned vibes all the way down, and especially in terms of the male roles. Like, like it wouldn't even make sense for the protagonist to be like. You could have a female protagonist in terms of the Bene Gesserit, but in terms of what's going on, with the main vibes and the importance of strength and tribalism and that whole kind of stuff, like it wouldn't work if you did it differently.
Well, and then changing things to make it so it's like more accessible, I guess, or making it so it's more inclusive. Like put like big, like I don't know what the fuck that means, but anyway, to make sure it's more inclusive. Like if it's not inclusive enough, which I was like, okay, Zendaya, it was playing Chani, and I was like, by all accounts, I don't know if like Chani was supposed to be. Well, I mean, they didn't really even have like quote unquote white people in the book.
Well,
I was like
the Fremen are a tribal desert culture. They seem to me to be like a clear analogy to like Arab people living in Middle Eastern countries. Like they don't seem like typical white people to me in the books.
I guess, but I mean, it wasn't really expressed exactly what they were supposed to be either.
Yeah,
but I mean, like you know, if you, my whole thing is it was like you did this outward appearance thing, and I was like, well, Leto didn't look like he was necessarily a white dude either in that movie.
No.
I was sitting up there going like, okay, so you've got like, I don't know what the kid's supposed to be, but clearly if he's like the progeny of these two people, no matter what way you think they look, like he's not necessarily quote unquote just this flat out white kid.
Yeah.
So
he's like half white.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I don't understand. Like, even if you went with that thought process, right? Like, why does it matter that he looked like he was a messiah because you outwardly thought that he was like some just regular white kid? I mean, it has that adds or takes away nothing from the story. But then again, like that was just something that I was reading, and that was I doubt that that's even like a real problem. I just find it funny that somebody always has that to say about something like this. Like almost all the time.
I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I kind of doubt that they were looking specifically for a white guy to play the role. They were probably looking for the best actor to play the role. That would be my guess.
Well, will they claim, like, after they find out that he's worse than Hitler, are they still going to claim that? Like,
yeah, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, then they'll probably be like, "Yeah, that's typical," and that's like.
Oh, we gotta have Hitler.
Yeah, they'll probably be like, "Yeah, that's what typically happens when white men take over things. They go around, and then a bunch of people die, and that's the typical way it always goes."
Right.
But you know, I don't know. I don't make up the rules. I just watch a lot of Joy Reid, and you know, watch her just like tear apart. Why? Because I like a good chuckle. I like to be lied to directly to my face. I like to have a racist tell me how to think about life. It's pretty good. Like every time I watch Joy Reid, I wonder. I go like, "Yo, man, like, can everything boil down to like white supremacy? Everything?" I'd be like, "Yo, man." Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, I'm like, "Yo, man, like there's speed bumps. There's too many fucking speed bumps in my town. White supremacy." I went to freaking rallies the other day, and my fries, they were way too salty. White supremacy, yeah.
They're trying to kill us.
You should just make a Twitter account called White Supremacy Yo, and then just have all of these mundane issues.
It's like, yo, man, woke up this morning.
Today, man. It was white supremacy. I don't know how it happens.
Yeah,
it's like, man, it's like, honestly, like white supremacy. Like I stubbed my toe this morning, right? And white supremacy moved that couch right in front of my foot, man. Like honestly, if it wasn't for white supremacy, we wouldn't have so many angles on couches, and I wouldn't have so much room to stub my toe, bruh. White supremacy, man.
Yeah.
I tried to open a beer bottle freehand and cut myself. White supremacy.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Why would they make glass? That hurts my hand. Like they should have known that I need plastic. White supremacy. George Washington Carver would have come up with some better shit.
Yeah. Well, it's inherently harder for black people to open bottles because they're poor, so they can't access bottle openers. So white supremacy.
Yo, man, like honestly, if you keep on saying shit like that, they're gonna come for you, man. You're in Canada. Like honestly, like Trudeau's listening to you right fucking now, bro. He's looking at you. He's like, yo, man, he's never gonna be on the cabinet. He's a white man. He's talking to an indigenous person.
He probably knows then that pretty much every time I talk about him, I say the only thing I like that he said or did was legalize weed federally.
I mean, like even that is legalizing weed federally, like that's cool, but was weed like as big of a problem as it is for us in the United States? Because I mean, like they put fentanyl in the weed that they bring from Mexico. That'll get you real high. It'll be the last high, but it'll get you real high.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. I don't know, man. Like always, Canada seems like it's a loft apartment above a really dope party. So I mean, I don't know what it's like just having.
Depends on what you like in a party. I mean, the party seems pretty fucking chaotic.
It is, yo, man. Like honestly, like when people talk about parties here, like I don't know if you've heard about that Travis Scott thing that's happening right now. Like Travis Scott got into a lot of trouble because he had a concert and a few people died. But that's how lit our parties get. Motherfuckers die at our party. Okay?
Yeah, I heard about that.
I was about to say, I'm like, what's the last time I heard? I don't even know if they had any like deadly
White
concerts.
supremacy.
Bruh, of course it was white supremacy. Came out there, they got like too fucking hype off of fucking Travis Scott music. That's what they call white boy good time shit right there. That's white supremacy. That is. There were a few too many motherfuckers that yelled "yeehaw" out in the audience, and that's when shit gets wild, bro. As soon as you hear like 2 yeehaws, that's when motherfuckers is dying. And I heard that there were at least like 4 out in the audience, so we should have known motherfuckers were gonna die. And like I said, when's the last time you've seen like a Canadian party that like went off and motherfuckers died at it? I haven't heard about one of those in a while. What's up?
I'm sure it's happened. I don't know.
It's like, what is it? Fucking some goofy named fucking event called like Bonnaroo or some shit like that.
Bonnaroo.
It was really deadly, eh?
We just celebrated our true Thanksgiving. You guys got the wrong date there in Thanksgiving, eh? And we celebrated Remembrance Day instead of Veterans Day because we're better here in Canada, eh?
I could just imagine. I don't even know what would be like a deadly, like what is like anything that's even like extreme and can't like Canadian sport that like motherfuckers just die doing.
Canadian football.
What?
Yeah, true. Yeah, they definitely get CTE from Canadian football, CFL.
Oh my God, they hit each other hard enough to get Yo, I didn't even think that was real football, man.
It was basically the same. You're talking about indoor football.
Don't insult my Grey Cup, eh? The Grey Cup's the true cup.
I'll be like, yo, man, like when people go like, yo, I played football in Canada, I'll be like, oh man. So you were never good enough to play real football, huh? Yo, man, that's shout out to Canada, man. Y'all are trying. God bless you. Like nobody, like we don't watch any of that shit here, right?
At least we're not making abortion illegal, and we have legal free weed.
Well, okay, fine. I live in Denver. I got legal free weed, but like abortions or whatever, that's like, all right, whatever. I mean, if that sounds like a woman problem.
Don't knock a chick up in Alabama.
I don't have anything to say anything about that. All I gotta say about that is I'm like, yo, man, if I make any kids, I'm I don't know. I don't know.
It would be so.
Oh,
It would be so much easier for people if we had the powers that the Bene Gesserit have in Dune, and anyone could just, I don't want to have kids, so I'm gonna drink this tea with these magic spices.
I don't know, man. That'd be pretty dope, man. Like honestly, we kind of did that anyway, and like that seemed like that was something that would never happen when this book came out. But now that it's here, man, like the ramifications is pretty crazy, man. Like we don't even marry each other, we don't like each other. It's pretty dope. Like I've been
Just
out
go
here,
with
man.
it.
Like
Just go with the honored matres, and then get a male version of them, and then we'll just all be fucking honored matres until the end of time.
oh man, I don't
We'll
know,
still
man.
produce.
Like Pornhub is making it weird out here, man. Pornhub
Yeah.
is, man, like real relationships don't exist anymore. Maybe we will get like that. We'll just like have sex robots and just like not even interact. Just stay
Yeah.
inside and just like work from home all the time. It'd be great.
That sort of thing happens with me most of the time too. I'm like, basically, if I'm talking to a chick and if I meet them, I basically like, I'm up for whatever, we could hang out, we could fuck, we could date, see what happens. And most of the time it ends up being without them saying anything about it. Like, we're gonna date and hang out a few times and maybe fuck a few times, and then I never hear from you ever again. I didn't decide to do that. They decided to do that.
Yeah, man. We out here in the field, man. Especially out in Canada. I hear it's like a disease out there. Like you just have to deal with like the thoughtism, like for the streetism, like
Dude, yeah.
it's because of the liberation, man. Like you know what it is? It's that abortion shit that you're so proud of. Like at least around here, we like try to put them back in line a little bit. You know, be like these bitches acting crazy, son. What the fuck is going on? So let's start slapping down some laws. Let them know what's really going on because they're not respecting that bicep enough. You're not respecting the fucking bicep.
They would like outlaw the Bene Gesserit, man. You freaky witches are giving people abortions. Gotta outlaw the Bene Gesserit magic tea.
Yeah, probably. I mean, like honestly, I would, but if it existed, because I'm a misogynist. You know what? Never mind. I can't just come out and just flat out say that. Disclaimer, man. Just in case I ever want to become like politically active. When I said that all in jest. I'm not actually a misogynist.
Oh yeah.
But
nothing Parker says on here is said seriously. Take this as a stand-up comedy hour.
I was about to say, I'm like, honestly, like if I was a misogynist, that would make living in Denver a very hard time. Well, it wouldn't actually make it that hard. I would probably just laugh in a lot of people's faces aggressively. Because that's just what I do when people get like real aggressive. Like I guarantee if somebody were like, what you believe is horrible, I'd just be like, it's fucking crazy that you fucking think I care. I don't know, man. That's like my stilo though. But you know what? Never mind. We're talking about fucking Paul Atreides and him being a fucking blind messiah that goes out into the like fucking the desert and dies like a G, which is like, you know what I love? I love the fact that he does like the Jesus thing, but he does it like way less aggressive than Jesus did. Jesus got stabbed, went through all kinds of trials and tribulations. Like, yo, man, he did that shit mad dramatic. And he could have just died regular. And he also had a Judas too. Because that Judas, like towards the end, I forget what the dude's name was. Krieger was his name? Krieger?
I don't know. I don't remember. Do you remember
somebody?
Which guy?
He was somebody that like betrayed him, like towards the end of the book. Like had betrayed.
Yeah, I think you're talking about like the what was his name? It was like a Middle Eastern name. Is that the guy that he went to go visit who was like a spy or something?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. And like he finally got called out and everybody kind of like hated him at the end. And Paul was just like, you know what, man? I ain't even gonna like kill you like that. I'm gonna just let the guilt just like destroy you from the inside out. Boom.
Yeah, because I know that Skytail like face danced his daughter or something.
Yeah, something
and
like that.
then
Yeah.
and then he had to go back, and I think the dwarf was the guy's like the guy that like owned the dwarf, right? They're talking about that guy.
Yeah. And then like
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
found, and he was found to be like some kind of like traitor or something. But anyway, all I'm gonna say is that Paul was way less dramatic about his death than Jesus was. Jesus like had like this whole long ass walk. He took like mad ass whoopings and everything. Mel Gibson had like this long ass video. It was basically like Jesus getting the shit beat out of him for like
I
basically two
haven't
hours
seen
straight.
it. Is it
Yo,
really?
man.
Is that what that movie is?
Yo, the Passion of Christ, yo, man, like, yeah, for 2
Oh,
hours.
dude, yeah, I watched
two and a half
that when it
hours, you
came
just
out.
see-
It's like a 2.5 hour torture fest. It's
I was
Is
like,
about
that
to
what
say,
it is?
yeah, it's like, hey,
I
come
was
and
like,
watch
yo,
a
man.
movie about Jesus getting tortured for
I was
basically
like,
the entire movie.
you see that? And like, and that was just as brave if you asked me the way that Paul went out. He's like, yo, man, I'm just go out to the desert. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
all that trials and tribulation. I
Well,
ain't
what
gotta
I
have that.
know is that the guy who played the Passion of the Christ, like Jesus, is like a hardcore Trump supporter or
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
he's like
Oh,
a
Jim
QAnon. He's like
Caviezel?
a QAnon guy, isn't he? I thought he was.
I think so.
I thought I
Oh,
saw
wow.
like someone had a
Shout
video
out to him.
commenting on him at some QAnon rally.
Yeah, shout out to him. He's Jim Caviezel. If you're out there and you're doing QAnon shit, man, you're doing the Lord's work. That's Jesus would be a QAnon conspiracy theorist too. We all know it.
That'd be so funny.
He was like, "Hey, man, like just imagine
God sent me here to tell you that the government is trying to microchip you and they're trying to kidnap your children and suck their blood, bro."
It's like Jesus. It's like Jesus comes down. He's like, "Yo, man, I just came to tell you, Alex Jones was right, man." That shit wasn't- It's like everybody knows that the Sandy Hook thing was a false flag operation, just like he said. Be fucking crazy.
Everything's a false flag for
Oh my god.
Jones.
Yo,
Well,
man,
I am Jesus.
why does
God
everything
told
have to
me
be
to tell
gay?
you that they're trying to turn the frogs gay.
They're trying to turn the freaking frogs. And why does everything have to be a gate? It's like everything's like, yo, man. It's like whatever. It's Obama Gate. It's Pizza Gate. It's Bill Gates.
Everything is gay. Bill Gates gate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everything is a gate now. It's like, yo, man, like, can we just come up with something different? Like Watergate was one thing, and that was unique. It was unique when that happened. You can't say if there's a conspiracy, you can't just put gate at the end of it. Now I'm gonna say we gotta read.
Pizza gate.
That's right. Like I said, everything that becomes a conspiracy, it becomes like it's whatever gate. So now from now on, I'm gonna be like, yo, we call it like conspiracy number whatever, and then like for whatever it is, and then we've got to come up with, you know how like
what would they call the gates that all the gates that happen in Dune Messiah, like Jihad Gate,
It has to be like a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Irulan Gate.
Irulan Gate. Dwarf Gate.
No, like there was a conspiracy against
Chome Gate. It'd be the Chome Gate.
Yeah, Chome Gate. Yeah.
There was a conspiracy against Paul, like in like how many different angles though? Because Irulan wanted to
like at least
Irulan, Chome, like the Navigators.
They just imagine
Thylaxu, everybody.
Well, just imagine like being Paul and like looking in a room and going like, yo, man, like I know at least 2 of these motherfuckers don't like me like that. Like just being in a room full of people and just knowing that all the time. And also he has prescience. So he's like, yo, man, like just imagine just knowing that. Just like that's like going to the lunchroom and going like, oh fuck, I know you don't like me. I see it. It's like I took some spice this morning and it told me that you didn't like my black ass. I know it. He's like, look at my eyes. You see how blue they are? You see how I'm high as fuck on spice right now. I know exactly what's going on. Like, as a matter of fact, that's what I love about like Aaliyah too. She like took that heroic dosage of spice and was like just going like just fuck like freaking out, going back and forth through time, going like nothing ever makes sense.
Yeah.
And she's like, honestly, I feel like if if I could get high and like see the future like that, I'd probably do that too. I'd be like, yo, man, it's like, yo, fucking Trump's gonna win. That's fucking crazy, bro. That's I don't know, man, but it's a little rough here. Like, I don't know. Like, what would y'all do if you like if spice was a real thing, like that you could take in just like in this life? Like you could just honestly, I know I would probably just do a bunch of sports betting. Just like I would just literally do what Biff did in Back to the Future.
Oh yeah. Like where he takes that almanac and then bets on sports and makes it
Correct.
work. Yeah.
That like literally that would be all I do. I'd be like, oh, it's gonna be a bad night for Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, I think if spice was a thing, sports betting would probably become illegal.
Yeah.
No, I mean like if you knew it, because I mean like
Only
you
you
have to
did,
get it the
yeah.
same way. Like and where would you even get it from then? Like what would be like the plate? Like would it be in Arizona?
Spice.
It's like you got it's like nigga, don't go to Arizona. It's like you know that movie Tremors? That shit's real, dog. Like that shit,
Or maybe like New Mexico, because that's where you get the good meth and Breaking Bad. So maybe that's where you get the good spice too,
Yo,
because it's like a
honestly,
desert
It's
climate.
far from Louisiana because it
do you
has
want to know
that,
why Breaking
that
Bad
Frenchness about it. Melange.
Yeah.
You
Were you
get some Cajun, some Cajun to sell it to you.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could see
No.
that because it is spice. Yeah.
Well, the only reason that Breaking Bad was even made in New Mexico was because it was too expensive to film it in Los Angeles.
Oh really?
That's
I didn't
it.
know that. That's funny.
So even they didn't believe that New Mexico had the best meth. They just went like, "Hey man, there's not a lot of people filming around here, and the taxes are really really low." Period.
No.
That's it. Like if you film something here in Colorado too, I think like there's like a certain amount of tax, but like you're gonna see a lot of other film meccas now because like just when people understand that it doesn't cost that much to like actually produce things in other places.
Lots of shows in Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, Hollywood doesn't have to be as much of a thing as it used to be with all the streaming platforms, right? Yeah.
Well, not just that.
I'd say if Spice actually existed, I think it would be almost impossible to resist taking it, even though like if in this universe I had read the Dune books, I would know, yeah, but I don't know if there may be too many consequences to actually taking this spice stuff. Like, do you actually want to have prescience? Would it be perhaps a burden? Like, would you be able to see your own death and then it would just torture you until it happens? Or like you could see the good things, but you could see the bad things too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Like that just sounds like that would just be dope to have blue eyes, though, man.
Yeah.
Like above all the other stuff, it'd be like, yo, man. Not only that, it'd be like, I don't know. I would probably like just up it a lot. I would have like blue eyes, and then I'd like have like just really whack tattoos that says something like realize, realize, realize. Like, you know, like,
Realize.
like you know. Yeah, and then that would be like my whole thing behind being prescience. I'd be like the first douchebag Fremen.
Or you're just gonna put mind killer on your license plate.
That's right, man. I'll just
Dude, that's
I don't even
funny.
know.
I
Like, what would that even be?
literally want to get a tattoo of Fear is the Mind Killer. Even though I know that there are bound to be people out there who have that tattoo who have never even read the quote in the full context, because I want to get the tattoo because I like the quote in the full context, because it's not about denying fear. It's about how if you face your fear, then you can conquer it. It's not about having no fear.
No, man, that's don't do it, man. That has angsty. That has angsty white dude written all over it. Don't get that shit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's some shit. Where it's
Angsty white dude.
But that fits the theme of my other tattoos anyway. Because my other tattoos, I just got them because they look cool. So
fair enough. I don't know, man. I'm just like I don't be a caricature of something because like that just like that feels like very 90s. It feels like very Tyler Durden type of shit. Like where it's like,
Tyler
yeah,
Durden. Yeah. The things you own end up owning you.
that's right, exactly. Where it's like, yo, man, you just have like a bunch of platitudes, and then like you want to just like take over the world and shit, and like every time I see Fight Club, I just know that that's like a white dude's fantasy, it's like just about being a better dude. And it's like, yo, man, like I could take over the world if I. It was like, listen, man, like no minority in America has, or on any in the Western society has that level of confidence to just be like, yo, man, if I just really snapped up and I believed in myself enough, I could make a whole revolution in my sleep, essentially. That's like
Well,
fucking crazy.
that's interesting too, because in that movie, it ends up showing in that way. Oh, maybe this fucking crazy white guy is bad at being a leader, and it turns into fucking chaos.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, but the problem is, like the problem is that like there were enough people that were angsty enough with him to like do that, and he was able to tap into that angst, almost how like Paul was able to tap into the wanting belief of the Messiah. But then again,
But Paul got his stones burnt, though.
he got his what?
He got his stones burnt.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's like fair to actually say that he was like truly that he was truly like Messiah, because like just the thought of him being the Messiah was kind of planted there by the Bene Gesserit, and that was the whole reason why he was like the Messiah that they had put in place with their eugenics program. So they were always expecting him. So if they were always expecting him, and that expectation of him was already artificially put there, does that mean that he's really Messiah, or is just like the concept of Messiah like just put there and he's just one cog in the
Yeah,
overall?
is it a self-fulfilling prophecy?
What
Yeah.
exactly? Because I mean, like, nobody would know that he was actually even supposed to be the Messiah, except for the fact that the thought of him being a Messiah was put there by the Bene Gesserit in the first place. And then he's also, it's not like he wasn't supposed to be there. He was made as the Messiah that the Bene Gesserit like were guided to make. So essentially, he played his part as being the tool. And when people recognized him as being a Messiah, he was always supposed to be that because he was presented as being that. And that was the whole purpose of what the Bene Gesserit did behind, before he was even born. So I don't know.
I'm going to go on a tangent here because there's just some weird UFC fight going on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some dude with his love handles tatted up, and he just drank some champagne out of a snaker.
Out of what?
Out of a snaker.
Why?
I have no idea. I guess because he won.
Okay.
Well,
But it's real weird.
it'd be a hell of a thing to do that if you lost.
I think it was a Reebok.
Yeah.
They usually don't say the champagne of failure, so
And
True.
then he showed off his tattooed like lip, I guess. Like, okay, you're a cool guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely a badass because I've got neck tattoos.
No, it was a lip tattoo, like on the inside.
That's even
like
more.
in order to show it to somebody, he
protecting
literally
them.
has to like stretch his lip out. So like no one's gonna see that shit unless he does that.
So he can show off his lip all the time to people.
Yeah,
hey, I had an awesome
anyway.
tattoo. See?
I don't know why he would tat up his love handles. It just looks weird.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Like it's extreme to be a fighter anyway. He just sounds like he's an extreme personality out there, man.
Drinking. Oh, there he goes with the lip again.
Well, good for him.
Drinking out of his Reeboks. Oh, somebody in the stands is drinking out of the Reeboks now.
Drink
oh, wow. That's kind of
gross.
Man.
Someone just poured into the cowboy boot, and then like Joe Rogan's talking to him now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That JR
Did I just see this motherfucker drink out of a Reebok? and then people are just going crazy in the stands. I
Okay.
don't know. I just thought that was crazy. It's like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Why are you gonna tat up your love handles? Like that's literally the only part that he's tatted up at, besides his lip. Is just like his handles. I'm like, okay, that's weird.
Huh.
It'd be interesting if the different cultures, like the Fremen or someone like that, had their own tradition of tattooing in kind of the way like how we were talking yesterday, Dusty, about how they kind of added that to the river folk in Wheel of Time with Sioan's character, where she has these tattoos that tell her life story or some kind of tradition like that. That would fit with Fremen in particular because they're a really traditional culture.
Yeah, because we're talking about the '60s when this book was written.
Yeah.
So it's probably wasn't in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, that's true. Tattoos were like more of a radical thing to do.
This
Yeah,
book is
like-
older than civil rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We kind of got more of the Fremen culture in the first book. There's not a whole lot of culture or world building. It's mostly all political intrigue.
Well,
Mhm.
actually, they did allude to a little bit of a change. It actually made me think of like fourth generation theory, actually, like where they say, you know, the first generation is the revolutionary generation that like the revolution happened with, and the second generation is like the stabilizing generation. The third generation exploits it, and then the fourth generation kind of questions what they were doing. And I'd say that like, so I'd say that like Paul kind of made the revolution because they kind of allude to the fact that now, you know, even when he's crying and everything, it's like before moisture was like this commodity, and things are so good now that people like kind of have a concept of kind of wasting water. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
like they actually say that a lot. They say that a lot about like wasting water and how like culturally it's changed. And I was like, and just as somebody that back to back reading the books one after another, I was like, that is a big difference because the first book, it was like moisture was everything. It was like they don't cry, they don't do anything, like they don't even piss, they don't do like nothing. Everything goes around moisture. Now it's like they're like, well, why would you even want to like? I mean, they can take showers and things like that. And they're like, yo, like we're taking showers like actually just be like to smell better, whereas that was a concept that wasn't even like thought of in the first book at all. It was all about moisture. It was like the desert's harsh, like we just like even if somebody dies we take their moisture. They didn't even think about taking Paul's moisture. He just walked out into the desert, and that was even more honorable. And like even think about how big that would be, because like it was even an honor to like be consumed by your moisture, because that's how big it was before. But now that's not even a thought.
Some of that too, though, is because that's part of the prophecy that Maud Dib will walk out into the desert and that sort of thing. And I was just looking this up too, and that's actually part of the like if you do that, you get rejected by the Fremen anyway. Apparently,
Do what?
if you just walk out into the desert and abandon your position of power.
It's a self-exile.
Yeah.
Ah, well, fair enough. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like when they said he was blinded, like if he was blind. He said he wasn't blind.
I'm messing up the details of that. It's from him getting blinded, because part of the Fremen culture is that if anyone gets a disability, then you're exiled from the Fremen. That's what it was.
Yeah, so he was still able, but well, he didn't have eyes, but could still see.
Yeah.
And he started to exile himself. Was it because he was like losing his powers or something like that?
Well, and some of it, like we were talking about before, I think is that he was questioning his morality in terms of the decision that he's making in his rulership of the empire.
Yeah, I mean, I think he kind of alluded to the fact that he went out into the desert to kind of like not have the burden of leading, because like Chani had died. He kind of lost a lot of what he wanted to live for before, and he knew that Irulan was basically going to take care of his kids because she had garnered a hatred for the Bene Gesserit that even he couldn't like. I mean, she loved him. Like, I mean, she loved him so much she wouldn't necessarily destroy his kids, which was, like I said, that was always an interesting kind of dynamic because Irulan detested him, but at the same time, it's not like she detested Paul. She detested the fact that he didn't want to be with her. Like, she detested the rejection of Paul, not necessarily Paul himself. And I always thought that was kind of interesting. That was kind of the background thing. Like, her irritation wasn't necessarily the fact that Paul, like, even had Chani around. Like, I think she even understood that like any woman would want to be with him, but she just didn't like the fact that he didn't want to be with her.
And in the Dune universe too, it seems much more accepted for men to have concubines too.
Yeah, it seems like that. Like a concubine was kind of like an accepted thing because Leto had his concubine. I don't think he was married though, right?
No,
Jessica was his concubine, and he never married her. Because she wasn't of a pure enough bloodline, right? Because we find out that she's part Harkonnen anyway.
Yeah, but I think Irulan definitely. She did really want to get stuck by Paul's Gom Jabbar or whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, that's I can see that. Yeah.
Not literally, but you know. She wanted that Gom Jabbar.
Well, she made it very clear that like there was a lot of love that she had for him, and
there's some in I think I'm pretty sure the first prequel trilogy by Brian Herbert and I think Kevin J. Anderson or whoever the other author is, they go a little bit more into why Jessica is Leto's concubine, and they go into a lot more of the backstory of the characters too, like the more Baron Harkonnen, which is really interesting too, and there's lots of interesting stuff there.
Yeah, book 3 is gonna get weird.
Yeah, book 3 gets really weird. There's like this isn't even really a spoiler because it kind of happens at the beginning of the book, Parker, but like Paul's son Leto lives for thousands of years and kind of merges his body with a sandworm.
No, well, that sounds about right. And then what happens to the sister then? Because doesn't
I don't remember. I don't
remember either, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that sounds about right. And like, yeah, then all of a sudden Dune isn't like even Dune anymore, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like now like it's a lush like just happy fun place. Like it goes from being like New York Central Park now to like, you know, the way it was like in 2000 when Rudy Giuliani had like the top stop and frisk and they were beating motherfuckers over the head. And it was like Disney World. Like it's like that.
Yeah, Giuliani and Bloomberg.
I was about to say, I was like, there was like, yo, everybody's like, yo, man, that's racist. And it's like, are you trying to say that motherfuckers don't be stabbing? It's like, well, exactly. Shut up. Yeah. So, you know, but hopefully, you know, we have a new mayor that's coming in and he's next cop, which means he's definitely gonna have motherfuckers just getting stopped and frisked. There's gonna be all kinds of crazy going on. New York is about to be back. It's about to be safe again. People are gonna be able to go on the subways without worrying about getting, you know, molested.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I'm serious as a heart attack. Motherfuckers is getting molested on the subways.
Jesus.
Yeah, they had straight up rape that happened in Philadelphia on the subway, and people just didn't even stop it. They just filmed it. They was like,
"Holy fuck, man!"
It was just like, yo, man, that's crazy. She's taking it. World star, dog.
Wonder how much of that is the social media culture where there's so much of a desire to record and share what's happening, and then that becomes such a priority.
I don't know,
Yeah.
man. Let's put it this way: like, if I saw a woman that was getting beat into submission while she was getting sexually assaulted, I'd like to think that I would like do more than just go like, "Oh, that's crazy. I should really just like film this and like get my world star hit."
Yeah, me too.
I'd like to think I'd at least call the cops and go like, "Holy shit, bro! Can you believe this is happening?" At the very least, if not like grab the
Yeah.
dude and like or go like, "Hey, there's other able-bodied dudes around. Maybe we should probably like stop this or something."
Yeah,
But I don't know, man. That's upsetting, man.
yeah,
That
man.
happened. That happened in fucking America, man. Like they really did. Like you can look up the story and everything, man.
Mm.
I think I can actually I can find it and maybe I can like send it to you guys real quick. But like that was a crazy ass fucking story.
That's fucking depressing.
Yeah. But what happened though if the chick stopped it and she's like, "This is my masochism right now. You're messing up my moment."
Oh, and that's pretty
That's
crazy.
fucked up, man.
And then you get sued
He's getting raped.
because the sex was consensual.
Well,
Maybe that's what you have in the back of your mind. Maybe that's why you didn't intervene.
Maybe there are people who have rape fantasies,
there it is, man.
and there are people who do rape role play too. Apparently, some people have a fetish for that.
Oh man, it's right there. That's like that was absolutely crazy, bro.
I can't imagine not doing anything to try to stop that if it happened in public, or at least calling the cops, like you said. Like that's fucked up.
Well, that was like the biggest thing. That it was just like, yo, man, like everybody saw it. It was clear what was going on, and like nobody even thought to even try to like intervene or do anything. And I don't know. That's just that's scary just as a citizen because it's like, okay, like I know I'm a man, but like you would think that at least if I was getting like the absolute shit beat out of me, like on the streets, right? There'd at least be like a couple people that would come up and go like, "Hey man, don't beat the absolute shit out of that guy," and like maybe try to stop it or something, or at least go like, "Hey, like we should stop." But it's like, yo, like when they say your ass is on your own, I was like, that was a woman, man. Like if they're not gonna help a helpless woman, then my black ass is in deep shit. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If they don't help out some helpless lady, like of any like race at all, and like it's like, no, man, she was just on her own. Like we just filmed the rape, and it was that she was just on her own. I was like, yo, man, that's a horrible society to live in, man.
Man, that makes me think. I don't know if they get into answering this question exactly, but do you think that as part of the Bene Gesserit's eugenics program or other eugenics programs that they would condone or maybe even like arrange some rape to produce the correct bloodline?
Oh yeah, I think
I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's in the rest of the series.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
No, I was about to say, I'm like, the thing about it is they like it's the cost of power. Like they have this underlying kind of sense that they kind of will do whatever it takes to get their Messiah under any circumstance. I mean, that was the whole reason why they were mad at Jessica in the first place. I mean, that was like it starts out with the what I think was like the mother, whatever it was. I forget what they call her.
Reverend Mother?
Yeah, the Reverend Mother. Like the old Reverend Mother going like, oh, she was like a treacherous bitch for what she did. And then like, they're like, like you can call her a treacherous bitch, whatever. We don't even really, and like you said, Jessica doesn't even really show up like that in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like it's an inconsequential kind of conversation, really. But you could tell that they were really pissed off at the fact that they were like, yeah, she had quote unquote freedom to be with whoever she wanted to, but like we decide who has kids. You don't decide on your own. And they were kind of pissed off at the fact that she kind of made her own decision. Even though, like I said, even though
with Paul's birth, right?
Correct. Because it was like, why would you think that you were going to be the one that was going to? And they even suggested underneath it that they kill off or abort male fetuses if they don't think that they're going to be, Bene Gesserit, or they're not going to be able to be a woman under the Bene Gesserit. I mean, they kind of suggest that because they were like, why did you give birth to a son? Like there's always that alluding to, if there's a son that's even born to a Bene Gesserit, it could be the Kwisatz, and that's basically means that it could be the Messiah if it's a male of any sort and it comes from a Bene Gesserit. So it's like they have such a deep hand within the genetic code of what their Messiah is going to be, that they would do whatever it takes to control it. I mean, they even kind of loosely try to control it, even with Jessica.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and especially in the prequels too, like I don't know why, but there's way more rape that happens in a lot of the prequels, and some of it I don't remember, but some of it probably has to do with genetics programs, but some of it is just like people like there's a part I'll never forget where a woman gets raped to death by a whole bunch of people, by a whole bunch of men as punishment for something that's really fucked up.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like Herbert's son was pretty edgelord there.
Yeah. Well, some of the prequels are really cool too, though. Like some of the interesting stuff that they explore, and I think my favorite prequel trilogy of the multiple ones that they did is the one that's all about the Butlerian Jihad, because it's so awesome. It's like the humans versus the AI, and the Bene Gesserit using their witch powers against like cyborg mechs, basically. There and sword fights versus guns, and all kinds of really cool stuff happens.
So it's like Judgment Day for the Terminator.
Kind of like that, but extended across a super long period of time.
Okay.
Well, sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. If we I do want to talk about the whole original series by Frank Herbert, and maybe it would be cool to get into, I think, just 2 of the prequel trilogies, because there are like 20 other prequel books, and some of them are not that good. But my favorite ones are the first prequel trilogy, which is it's kind of more, like I was saying, kind of establishing more of the backstory of Leto the First, Paul's father, and all the stuff that happens with characters. Some more of whom, like Baron Harkonnen, who are in the first Dune book, and there's more of the backstory of Duncan Idaho too. And like I said, the Butlerian Jihad trilogy is pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I just finished, well, not just finished, but I barely finished Chapter House Dune this year, I think.
Right, that's the 6th one, right?
Yeah, that's the last one from the original series.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be fun to get into. Like, I think we were telling you all this already, Parker, but I think it's the 5th one that you agreed with me, Dusty, that is really good, like almost as good as the first one.
Oh, the 5th one is the Honored Matres.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
one.
one.
Yeah,
Really
the magical sex women powers. Yeah.
Yeah, magical sex powers. That's book 5.
Yeah. It's a really interesting book in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I kind of understand that a lot of the women have a lot more of the magical and mystical powers, it seems.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the men have a lot of the more physical.
That's another theme that went forward from the Dune universe, like in the Aes Sedai, like we were talking about yesterday, Dusty, because in the Wheel of Time, only women are supposed to be the ones who channel, and like it's similar to the Bene Gesserit in this, it's mostly women like Bene Gesserit and the Honored Matres who have magic powers.
Yeah, and then there's an all-male kind of society, the Beneflalax. Like you only see males from that society, so and they use technology in order to stay on top of things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different. And they also do some genetic tampering, like with the gholas and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Even though even that kind of stuff is pretty frowned upon and controversial in the Dune universe because it's similar to like AI in a way because you're mixing technology and biological material.
Yeah, it's like necromancy.
Yeah, basically.
Bringing the dead back to life.
Yeah, for sure.
Axolotl tanks.
Yeah, those are really cool. There are a lot more of those in the Butlerian and Jihad trilogy for sure.
Okay. Weird terminology for stuff. Like my friend who's been listening to Dune, like occasionally he just throws out those weird Dune terms because he thinks they're funny.
Yeah,
It's
there are
like
a
the
lot.
Kwisatz Haderach and all that other stuff.
It's hard to keep track of them all. I still don't have every single one of them straight and distinct in my mind.
Yeah, Beneflalax. Yeah, I don't, and I can't even remember like the other name for sandworm, Shai Hulud or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think you're right. Shai Hulud, something like that.
Yeah, and then there's like a sandworm god, like a religion. It gets pretty crazy later on.
Like there's a religion around the sandworm riders too, right? They get into that in like the origination of that specific religion of the sandworm riders too in the prequels as well. It's really interesting.
Did the movie worms have fire inside of them, like the one they do in the books?
No, they didn't.
So they just made it like a straight up sandworm. Because I know in the books, the sandworms are supposed to have like a furnace or some type of fire inside them or something like that.
Oh, I forgot about that. No, they didn't have that in the movie. Just like a black void, like kind of a regular mouth. We only saw one up close like that, but yeah, that's how it was.
All right. Cool, man.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else you guys wanted to talk about in terms of this book?
I think I got it all covered on my end.
All right.
Yeah. Was the new Dune woke or no?
I didn't think it was woke. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
Not really. It was pretty straightforward. It pretty much went with the book. Although I will say, if you didn't read the book, you wouldn't have nearly as good of a time with it. It didn't have as much context.
For sure.
So you think if you had not read the book, the movie wasn't that enjoyable?
I would have been lost.
I think that like I was saying before we started this, I think that they made some of this stuff more explicit in the movie that is more subtle in the books. So I think you could probably still understand it if you hadn't read the books. But reading the books definitely helps you understand a hell of a lot more of the context of what's happening. And it's hard to say too, because I watched it with my friend who hasn't read any of the books. And because I'm a nerd, I was constantly explaining a little bit more of the details of what's actually happening in the books to her when it was happening. So I don't actually know what a genuine person who hasn't read the books response would be.
Okay. All right. Does Mapes show up in the new movie?
No, because the thing about the new movie is it actually only covers about the first half of the first book. It ends right when Paul and Jessica go with the Fremen.
Well, Mapes is only in the first half of the first book.
Oh, okay. I don't remember actually. Do you remember, Parker?
I think Mapes is there, but like just for like a second.
Okay.
Because Mapes was the one that the little seeker drone went after. Because
Oh, okay.
it was going after Paul, and then Mapes opened the door, and then that caused like a distraction, and was going after Mapes, and then Paul like saves
Yeah,
her.
she's definitely there.
That happens a little differently in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also like Professor Kynes is like a woman in the movie too. That was a slight variation too.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't in the movie?
No, Professor Kynes was a woman in the movie.
Oh, okay, yeah, they changed that up.
I forgot about that. I didn't even
Also
remember.
died.
Didn't Professor Kynes in the book have a daughter?
Yeah, and that's
So-
Chani. That's Chani.
So is Professor Kynes is Chani's mother?
Yeah.
In
I'd
the
assume.
okay.
I would assume they don't
Oh.
really go into that. You just see Chani, but they don't really, like later on in the book when you find out that that's actually like Professor Kynes' daughter. But Professor Kynes actually stays alive longer in the book than they do in the movie, than she does in the movie too,
Okay.
Right.
and
Yeah.
dies completely different than did in the movie too.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it's her, like, her death in the movie is a lot more dramatic and epic.
I didn't think it was. I thought it was pretty dramatic with the way that it happened in the book too, because like it was like like a gas kind of like bubble or something like that that came and like burst that Kynes was on, and then it like came and like swallowed him up. Whereas what used like a worm call to like basically swallow herself and like a few other people up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I was like, they kind of. I mean, it was kind of the same thing. It was just in the movie took other people with her. Whereas
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I guess I didn't remember the details of the book enough. Yeah.
So
That was
Dave
like
Bautista was in Dune.
Yeah,
did what?
he's like Baron Harkonnen's right-hand man, kind of.
Okay.
I forget the character's name.
No, I think that was supposed to be. He was supposed to be like the cousin. He was supposed to be the one.
Yeah,
that,
his the Baron Harkonnen's nephew. Yeah.
yeah,
think.
and that was supposed to be Paul's cousin, who I think whatever Batista is going to end up having to fight whoever Paul Atreides that character.
That would
is.
be cool.
I think that's the way that final thing is going to be, because you remember how like at the end, Baron Harkonnen's like nephew had to fight against Paul to basically take over Arrakis. Yeah, that was. I think that's what is going to eventually happen with Batista's character, because I was like, what is he supposed to be? And then I was like, oh, I think that's supposed to be the cousin or the nephew of Baron Harkonnen, because like he's the only one that could even like really yell, and also he says uncle. Yeah, like why don't we like crush the Atriedes? So yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the nephew that Paul's going to have to eventually face off against.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check this out sometime.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching, I would say. And yeah, we should maybe do a movie chat about it at some point once you watch it, Dusty. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Okay. Also, I'm saying that there's like some bald woman that was in the movie.
Some bald woman?
Yeah. Some lady with alopecia or something.
I don't
know.
know.
Maybe they had her wear a wig.
I don't know. I don't remember any character like that, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check this thing out.
Okay.
The guy that played Leto looks like kind of like the Leto from the original movie.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, you know what? I don't really remember what Leto looks like in the original movie that much.
Basically, like the guy that's in the more recent movie.
Okay.
Yeah, David Lynch. How did they present the weirding way?
I I don't remember.
Because that's like the weirding way is the Bene Gesserit like fighting style. Like,
Oh yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, they had Jessica fighting a bit, but it didn't really look like she was fighting in any particular style. Like Paul and Duncan, they kind of had something resembling sword forms or something like that, but I don't remember Jessica having anything that looked like a particular fighting style.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see how it stacks out. Well, I know they did the weirding way dirty in the David Lynch movie. It was just them like yelling gibberish and shooting stuff out of a gun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. And then we had the bald Bene Gesserits. I thought that was an interesting addition, though. The bald Bene Gesserits.
Yeah.
Oh, they had to have the iconic scene, right? The where he puts his hand in the box.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's weird. The movie only covers half the book.
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely going to be a sequel, right? At least one. I've heard there are going to be at least 2 sequels.
So I don't know. All right, they're just doing the first book, and they're trying to split it up in 3 movies.
I think they're big. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems like they would split the first book into 2 movies because it seems like like I said, they ended the first movie about halfway through the first book when Paul and Jessica go with the Fremen.
Well, I guess it's possible because Sci-Fi did a mini-series on the first book, and they think in total it's like 4.5 hours or something.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we'll see. I'll have to check this out. You liked it, right? You thought it was pretty good?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I definitely like it more than the other 2 adaptations that I saw.
Okay, the Sci-Fi and the David Lynch.
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. Yeah, I'll just have to check it out. I'm not gonna get. Is this on the secret website?
I didn't check actually. I watched it at my friend's house who has this sort of streaming service that they pay for that allows you to watch newer movies too.
Okay. Well, I'll have to check it out then.
You can get it on HBO Max.
Yeah, I have too many streaming services, and HBO Max is not one of those. And I don't want to get another goddamn streaming service.
I have this streaming service called Crave, and you can watch like some HBO stuff, but not like the super popular stuff on HBO Max. But they started this temporary deal to tempt people to get HBO Max by lowering the price to like an extra $1 a month if you want to upgrade to that with Crave. So and I use my brother's account for that, and he decided to do that. So that's why I don't know if you saw, Dusty. I one of the movies I suggested for our movie chat next week was the Snyder Cut of Justice League because I can watch that now. The 4-hour long uber nerdy Snyder Cut of Justice League.
Is that freaking long? Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna take like a couple different sittings, man.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be like 3 sittings for me.
Well, we'll see, because I didn't find the Justice League that great. So
I didn't like that, but I didn't like that movie at all. But apparently, some uber nerds think the Snyder Cut is way better.
Some people said that about the Batman versus Superman, and I didn't think it was that much better.
There's like another cut of that one?
Yeah, there's a Snyder Cut of that too.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay.
Apparently, I've never actually seen the original theatrical release.
Oh, okay.
But apparently, it's not much different. I think they just added on like a half hour or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, they added a hell of a lot of.
But they couldn't really save that movie. It's like there's some parts of that movie that are cool, like the very last kind of fight was cool, but the Batman versus Superman stuff was really stupid. I
kind of like that movie and the themes in it and stuff, but yeah, the Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman versus that alien monster was the coolest part. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get that Wonder Woman kind of theme song going. That's like the only cool theme song in the DC universe.
I don't even remember how it goes.
It's like the epic song that plays when she shows up and starts fighting the monster.
Okay.
I go look it up. You know what I mean if you looked it up, like the Wonder Woman like battle theme or something.
Okay.
It's because they use it in a lot of trailers, I think, too. For that.
Yeah, I would probably recognize it when I hear it then. All right. Well, thanks for talking about this book, guys. It was fun to nerd out about it and get into some other topics as well. And I tied some of those back into Dune a few times, which is cool for me. And yeah, so do you guys want to talk about the third book sometime too? I think for next, I was thinking for next book chat though, it'd be cool if you guys want to get into, because we're covering the Dark Tower series too. So do you guys want to talk about the second book of the Dark Tower series next?
I'm down for that. I've been newbie on that one. I haven't read it yet.
Me too.
Yeah. Drawing of 3.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah. You guys want to talk about that next time?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Cool. All right, awesome. All right, so thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe, click the bell to be notified when I come out with more videos. And check me out on Patreon. The link is in the description of the video, as always. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And read the Dune books. They're awesome. And yeah, check out, I think next week ideally, or the week before that, at some point before the new Matrix movie comes out, I'm going to do like a reaction video to the final trailer. So look forward to that too. And I'm going to talk about my theories about what will happen philosophically and spiritually in the movie, because I'm a huge Matrix nerd. And yeah, I think next weekend. So next weekend, I don't know if you saw that message, Dusty. I was suggesting to the movie chats group that we either watch and talk about Saving Private Ryan or that Snyder cut of Justice League. Which of those would you prefer?
Well, it depends on when, because if the Snyder cut's like 4 hours, I would probably need at least a couple weeks to digest that one. Okay.
So you're
if we're doing Private Ryan, yeah, we could do that like whenever.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see what Chris and Shizan say, because Shizan said he'd be up for either of those, and I didn't hear from Chris in there yet, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, anything else you guys want to say before we end it there?
Just check out Centrist channel. We're going to do episode 7 of The Wheel of Time next week. We're just going to do a reaction on that and a review, and join us, and it should be fun.
Yeah, check it out. It'll be fun. Anything you want to say there, Parker?
Yeah. Just check me out on Instagram at _Afropsychonaut. As you can see, my screen name is. Yeah, slowly making content for my channel. Should be up here pretty soon, probably next year, probably summer next year. The way things are looking.
Okay.
And
let me know, man, and I'll promote it and subscribe to it and stuff.
No problem, man. I appreciate that.
No problem. All right, thanks again, guys, and look forward to talking about book 2 of the Dark Tower series next time. And thanks again, everyone, for watching, and adios until next time.
All right, take